So the login manager, if you're in the login manager role, members of this role can create new logins in the master database. To create a new user with a login manager role, we can follow the preceding steps to create a user and then just add them to the login manager role. Non-admin users. Non-administrative users, they don't have access to the master database and have limited access to the specific databases and objects in them. An example of a non-administrative user is the application user. The application user is one which is used by an application to connect to the database to perform sort of various different DML or database data manipulation language operation. A non-administrative user can either be an Azure Active Directory user or a user of a SQL Server authentication. In this demo, we will create a contained database user for AD authentication. Now, in order to do this, I'm going to open up Management Studio and I'm going to open up a database engine query. Now, I've got my commands in here pre-populated, but I've connected to my ToyStore SQL Azure SQL database, okay, and then I'm going to execute a create user statement. Now I'm going to change my database here in the drop-down list to be ToyStore, and then I'm going to do create user Mike with our password, execute, and then I'm going to add Mike to be a member of the DB owner role, okay, and now I can log in with Mike here, put Mike in there with Mike's password. User failed for Mike, and the reason it failed is because I need to specify a database to connect to. So I'm going to call it ToyStore. Click on connect, and I'm able to sign in as Mike using my contained user. So the login only exists, or the user only exists in the ToyStore database, and I authenticate against the database. Next, I will be able to create a contained user using a user I've just created called Zion at Gethin Ellis Google Mail on Microsoft.com from external provider. I'm going to click on execute there, and it's telling me I can't create it. So I'm now going to create a contained database user using Azure AD authentication. So I'm going to create my user Zion from my external provider. I'm going to click on execute, and it's telling me could not be created. Only connections established and active accounts can be created. Okay, so I'm getting this because I'm signed in using my SQL Server account. So I'm going to click and copy that, and then I'm going to switch to Alexander, who is an AD user. And now I'm going to run my create user, and it creates a user for me in my database, and then I'm going to add Zion to my database reader role because I've got the name wrong in my member. So I'm adding the wrong member. Let's tweak this script to add the right user, and now that should work as well. I need to be in the ToyStore database for this. Just create my user in my ToyStore database, and then I'm going to alter the data reader role to add my user to it, and the command completes successfully. Now I can go to connect, database engine, I can change this to Zion, I can log in with Zion's password, click on connect, and it goes in, and Zion has reader permissions on the ToyStore database. Groups and roles. Additionally, you can group users with similar sets of permissions in an Azure AD group or a SQL database role. You can then give permissions to the group and add the user to that group. It makes managing your security model a little bit more straightforward. If a new user then comes in with the same permissions or needs the same set of permissions, we can simply add that user to that role or group. Role level security. This authorization controls whether or not a user can read or write to one or more tables. Role level security further controls what data in a table the user has access to. So let's say we have a customer in a database and we want users to access only those rows in a table which belong to them. So in the example here, customer 1 should only have access to rows with customer ID 1, and customer 2 should only have access to rows with customer ID 2, and so on. This is where role level security comes in. Role level security allows you to enable this at the database level and not the application level, so you can enforce this at the database level. Prior to role level security, such security was only possible by implementing access logic at the application level. Role level security is implemented by writing the row access logic or the security predicate in an inline table valued function and then creating a security policy on top of the security predicate. The security predicate defines the criteria to determine whether or not a user has read or write access to a given set of rows in a particular table. Now, Roll-Out Security supports two types of security predicates. Filter predicates. These apply to select, update, and delete, and they silently filter out any rows that don't meet the qualifying criteria. Block predicates apply to after insert, after update, before update, and before delete, and will block unqualified rows to be written to the table.